in working with hitters, young, developing hitters over the years, one of the things certainly I've, seen in operation, and when I talk to players, they confirm that this is how they were taught, this particular cue, and it's the one known as squishing the bug. And, there's a lot to be said about this, but let me kind of say it as bluntly as I possibly can. There's probably no cue out there that is more destructive of learning how to really rotate well than this one. My evidence is, numerous and varied. I've seen all kinds of hitters basically turning the body in a way that when I ask them, did you learn how to, try to turn the hips by this idea of creating frictional force against the ground, internal rotation, back leg, and technically speaking, this kind of thing. And, many times they say yes. Just from a basic functional understanding. One would not want to try to move a large system, so to speak. And we'll say the system here is the entire body mass and the barrel coming around. Both have substantial amounts of inertia to them, right? So you don't want to try to move something that's large with some really, really small object. It's like saying, I'm going to do this 400-pound deadlift, and I'm going to really concentrate on using my wrist to power this deadlift. That would be impossible. That's not going to happen. So the reality is, since it is basically impossible to effectively move some large mass like the trunk with a relatively small object like the leg here, it's not going to happen very well. You don't turn this leg, move this. I can do this all day long. As you can see, nothing here moved. So let's say I'm swinging. Very, very little moved here. And I'm doing it as fast as I can, and very little is moving, as opposed to trying to use this leg to stabilize the body. So I land, it's flexed and stable. I pick this leg up, and then I start turning the trunk. So in that case, I'm using the legs to help support the trunk in rotation. So what am I doing with this back leg? I'm simply picking it up. I drop this heel, I lift this heel, I turn the trunk. As opposed to aspects of trying to turn, and usually, what I was going to say, trying to use the legs to turn the trunk, usually it's going to be both legs involved. So as I've demonstrated core rotation many times, this is kind of like squishing the bow with both legs. This leg is externally rotating, this one's internally rotating. You don't move this you don't move this by doing this kind of action, right? You're just kind of spinning in place. Developmentally, it would be much better to take an 8-year-old, 6, 7, 8, 9-year-old and say, I don't want you to move your feet at all. This is a little practice exercise. Do not move your feet. I want you to concentrate on moving this area right here. So this little exercise, let's say, would be much more effective than trying to tell somebody to swing by turning this leg like that. Simply put, a good swing does not happen that way. And if you want to destroy somebody's potential, tell them to try to actively turn the legs or turn this leg, and as opposed to working at turning this trunk area, hip and trunk area. Developmentally, it should start with understanding how to use the legs to support the trunk in rotation and build upon that. So, the other thing about squishing the bug, it's usually part of the idea of using the lead leg to extend. So you get extension here, pushing hard here, and spinning here. So you get this kind of stiffening, very quick stiffening, and pushing hard into the ground, a lot of times pushing up. So that kind of thing here. This is, you're going to see, I'm exaggerating it somewhat for emphasis, but this is a pattern I see all the time. This leg is basically overwhelmed by this pushing action, so in effect it stops the rotation, and then I'm turning like that, so you get a very, very jerky, uncoordinated. You can see here when I straighten my head, the trunk kind of went this way. You'll see that kind of over-the-top action, or sometimes pushing and leaning back like this, turning this up. But the bottom line is all these things are called, all these different looks, relatively odd-looking looks, so to speak. They're a function of trying to use the legs to turn the body. And good swings don't work like that. So we just wanted to talk about this one just a little bit.